Good morning. This is the Reverend Julianne Lepp. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning on this Sunday, March 21st in 2021. We have a lot of 21s in that. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And again, I'm the Reverend Julianne Lepp. Welcome to our virtual service. Today we are going to acknowledge and learn from the lessons of Neo-Paganism and Indigenous teachings. We acknowledge that we inhabit the sacred lands of Indigenous peoples. We honor the land of the Ojibwe and of the Dakota nations. Our opening words this morning are from Joy Atkinson's. The womb of stars embraces us. Remnants of their fiery furnace pulses through our veins. We are of the stars, the dust of explosions cast across space. We are of the earth. We breathe and live of the same breath of ancient plants and beasts. Their cells nourish the soil. We build our communities on the harvest of their gifts. Our fingers trace the curves carved in clay and stone by forebears unknown to us. We are a part of the great cycle and circle of humanity gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar. We gather anew to celebrate our common heritage. May we recall in gratitude all that has given us birth. Come, let us worship together. And now we will share music put together by David Hirsch and our choir, and we are so grateful for all the work that goes into these musical offerings.
All is peaceful, all is peaceful. Highest of blessings, highest every reverence of thy monarchy, peaceful. The sky, moon, and sun, thy flowers, I am old age, the essence of life. I am the source of happiness. All is peaceful, all in beauty, all in harmony, all in joy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Lonsdorf, and I'll be a worship associate and one of your speakers today as well. And I first want to do a special announcement from our Safety and Reopening Task Force, which you might not even know we have. Some of you might be aware of. So we have been working since, March, April, when COVID became a part of our lives to help find the appropriate safety regulations, working with our public health. Apparently we're having trouble with my sound. So hopefully this will come out okay. So we are working to understand what public health guidelines are with COVID and CDC guidelines, and to find what's the safest way that we can still be together and connect together. So I think they're going to have Nate take over the rest of the announcement because my audio is poor, so I can change to a different device.
Yep, thank you, Amanda. After the church service during our virtual coffee hour, we're going to have a breakout room where we can share each other's thoughts and feelings and opinions about how our church is going to reopen. A lot of that is yet to be determined, and we're figuring it out, working with state and local authorities. And we're looking forward to a really good, meaningful discussion with everybody here, so we can figure out this project together. So please stay for this discussion after the service today. I believe we're going to have a breakout room for it. And now I'll do life of the community. I'm Nate Otto. I'm the congregational VP this year. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. We welcome all who treasure freedom of conscience and the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you follow our Facebook page to participate in Zoom and receive announcements about special events in our religious exploration classes. Please sign up for our weekly email. There should be a link in the comments section on our Facebook page where you can sign up. Also, families can follow our UUC Religious Exploration Facebook page. There are religious exploration classes for 4K through 9th grade and youth group every Wednesday online for middle school and high school. We're glad you can come and join us today.
Good morning. Please join me in lighting the chalice. I'm Sarah. I'm Sarah Meyer. Our chalice reminds us of that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that you go ahead and light it, honey. That all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our smallness and our short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought, critical thinking, with a sense of shared responsibility. Here you go, honey. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known.
Hello. All right. Hopefully you can hear me okay this time. That's the hope. So I had to switch devices. All right. I see a yes. So yay. So I have a reading for you today, and that is, I'm going to read it from the book here, but it is Dreaming History, a collection of Wisconsin Native American writings. And this is a poem by Michael Roberts called What the Circle Means. We see, looking at the horizon and the stars, how the land we are standing on curves away from a pattern we can follow. The sun coming and going at certain times, the stars being seen again and again in certain spots of the sky, in certain seasons. The people always watched these comings and goings and followed these patterns and saw these curves, returning again and again. It is so clear over time. The sun comes big and yellow from the east, early in the time of planting, and earliest with all the warm red winds of the southern lands. Then the three sisters, the people's planting, grows dark and lush, swallowing the sunlight. Days are gone short and black in the west, where the sun goes away sooner, following the circle we all know after a few years. The falling white sheet comes out of the north, each season in this circle, always in this circle, as the earth circles the sun and the moon the earth, circling like the stars and the seasons and the dancers, who are our sisters and cousins. The center of our circle is the earth, who is our mother. She is riding on the broad back of a turtle, who is hard and soft in places and walks on the land and swims through the waters. This turtle is very old, and he has carried us for a long time. Our mother, the earth, fell pregnant with us and from another place in the circling stars, clutching her hands dark soil and ripe seed. She fell onto this great turtle who spread his back wide and asked his brothers in this world, then all water without end, to help him save our mother. These brothers, the muskie, the otter, the beaver, dove down into the bottom of the swirling waters, and each brought up a little shovel of mud to make a solid place on Turtle's back. Where she fell on Turtle became this island, and the seeds and soil in her hands she spread all around on Turtle's spreading back. Our mother, the earth, had her children here, and here we all are, all of us, and we owe so much to the muskie, the otter, the beaver, and let's not forget, we're walking on Turtle, and somehow the stars are our cousins too. So one of many poems today from that particular book. I highly recommend it if you are interested and enjoy these. So I also have a reflection to share with you as well. Oh, no, sorry. That's later. I was ahead of myself, so I will leave it to the next person.
Now is the time where we move into our joys and concerns. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to share in this service, you are welcome to post it into the chat, and I will share it here in this sacred space. And joys and concerns might be a birthday or an anniversary, or a joy about seeing a neighbor being well again. I'm going to light our candle here. Molly Larson shares a joy that her sister got engaged yesterday. So we will light a candle for her. I would also like to light a candle for Carol Johnson. I had a chance to visit her the other day, and she is not always able to recognize everything, but we had a beautiful conversation about poetry and the meaning of Unitarian, this congregation in her life, and that was lovely to be with her. With Danny, she says, thoughts of peace for my friend who passed away Thursday after a long battle with lung illness. We lift her up, this friend up. And for Andy, my stepfather had a fall and broke his hips Sunday, and he had surgery and is recovering. So we will send healing thoughts to him. Paul Reed also has a candle for a friend who had recent knee surgery. Sarah Meyer shares the joys of seeing that the robins are back and the weather is warming up. Amen. We also have from Trish a concern for my grandson who is having troubles. From Claire, the joy of a new perspective and the freshness of spring. Concern for a friend struggling with addiction. For Ashley, we have a joy of spending time with a friend and daughter and her daughter. Joe Abhold, my son facing felony charges for being a peaceful participant and a medic at a police brutality protest. So we lift Joe and his family up. From Jim, a joy to volunteer last weekend at community table. It was a joy to be with you all for that. For Sue, a joy, please light a candle for a childhood friend. Dan, his dad went through quadruple bypass. Yes, we will light a candle for him. And from Dawn, my joy is seeing signs of spring, life continues. From Katie, healing thoughts to my friend who has several complications after their appendix burst. From Teresa, a candle of joy that my coworker who completed chemo is in remission. That's lovely. We hold all these joys and concerns in this community. Though we are apart from each other, I hope you will feel the love that binds us together. And if you will join me with the words found in the chat or on streaming, love is the spirit of this church and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We see this bonfire of candles of hope and sorrow and joy that are all a part of the mix of our lives that held in this community. Now we're going to move to a hymn that is Rising Green, done by our very own Danny Higley. And thank you for all that contribute to our music today.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, her sap doth run in my veins, boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end, my sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love's eternity. I feel rushing on a far distant sand, winking my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
And now I have a reading by Rosemary Robinson called Women. And when I ask from whence becomes my strength, the silence echoes from the depths within myself, and I hear the strong reply. My strength is mine because I share in the universe, no less and no greater than the highest mountain or the smallest blade of grass. I am a reed to yield and bend beneath the winds. Standing tall when the storm is ended, I sway amid the rushes, drawing sustenance from the waters of life, making transition from the dark to light in harmony with that earth who mothers me.
Now
All
we're
right.
going to have Amanda Lonsdorf do her reflection. We're kind of switching up the order a little bit, and then I'll move into my reflection.
Thanks for that. Yeah, that was on me. I misread where I was in the script. So but now I'll share. Um, so when I was very young, the natural world around me was one of my greatest teachers and closest friends. I, grew up on a farm on my own, and so my friend was nature and the animals and things around me. And for me, everything around me was alive and worth my respect and kinship with. Many people didn't quite understand my beliefs growing up, especially since it didn't quite adhere to a lot of the Christian beliefs of many of the people around me in my life. My parents were very supportive, but other people kind of cocked their head and looked at me strangely sometimes when I would talk about these things. So um, I had in college, I had explored, started exploring different spiritual paths and communities to see what fit me best and what made the most sense for me and what fit my values and the practices. During that time, I ended up taking a Ojibwe language class at UW-Eau Claire, and in the past, and I had struggled, I will be completely honest, to complete many of the other kind of more traditional languages, like Spanish and Latin, and I just really had a hard time with it. When I saw the Ojibwe language class, that it was much about communication and really having a conversation with people and not just memorizing verbs and nouns and things, that really appealed to me. So I said, well, I got to do a language. This seems like it would fit well for me. And surprisingly, it actually really made a lot of sense to me, because it was focused on what we're experiencing in the world and the natural world around me. And in the class, I was really fascinated to learn about the Anishinaabe culture through that language. And one of the things that really struck me about the language was the nouns. In other languages, you learn about nouns and they're often gendered, male or female. Like I do still remember, and I think I'm correct on this, that in Spanish, la falda, which is the dress, it's a masculine noun, and which always, I think it sticks with me because it seems so strange that a dress was a masculine noun, and this of course affects how you might change the word as you're making it plural, or who you're talking about that noun with in the language. In Ojibwe language, the nouns weren't separated by gender like that. They were separated by who is a living or non-living being. And that was really amazing to me, because this didn't just include humans, but different animals and plants that could be living or non-living beings, animate or inanimate. And that was it was both shocking and amazing, but also really very settling, because that's how I had seen the world from a young age. So that fit much more with my own personal worldview about there being living beings besides humans. And I just was thought that those living beings were so important to say. The nouns we're using, they're either specific to those relationships. They're a living being because they have a deep, important relationship to the people and to their history and the land, and that's why they were living beings versus non-living. And it was just really fascinating to think about. And this lesson of that deep respect for and deep relationship with all manner of living beings around us was just embedded in the language and how you spoke. So it made me feel this very deep kinship to the Ojibwe language and the Anishinaabe people, that as kind of a new pagan at the time, I had just tentatively started taking on that term and being like, okay, I think this is where I fit in. It was really heart-filling to find a neighboring faith and culture that held these similar ideas. It didn't feel so strange because maybe other people had told me it was strange before. Oh, I see. Look, wait. Yeah, yeah. I remember a little bit. I've lost a lot of what I learned, but I still have some of the words in there. So it was very strangely validating to have another culture and religious group that saw the world so similarly to me. And this especially was meaningful at the time where I maybe didn't feel as understood by some of the overculture, or even that even seemed to ignore and disrespect the natural world. So it was just a really important thing to me that I still remember to this day. And this, of course, led me also to just continue my studies to start even minor in American Indian Studies at UW-Eau Claire. And I helped me to want to understand the local and national history of Native American peoples, social and political concerns of the past and present, and understanding the people of the many Native American cultures and nations today. And so that kind of led to more learning, to expand my knowledge, not only of the relationship with nature, but also the people and the individuals, and how do we, all live together today in this world. It also led me to taking another class as part of the minor and also later take it, but then also be a teaching assistant for ethnobotany, ecofeminism, and the Anishinaabe women class. Very long title, but it was all about connecting with plant beings of this region and Anishinaabe people's culture and religious lives and the daily life that the plants would be a part of. And in this way, we learned about how to create an appropriate relationship with the plant beings and the land, to know their stories and how they fit in with the stories of the Anishinaabe people, and to know how to harvest them respectfully and by asking permission, and to give offerings to the plants, and to promise to help the plants continue to survive and thrive where it was. And that was a part of that relationship. I'm not just going to take, but I'm also going to help where I can to make sure that you, plant being, and your descendants can survive and thrive. And that was something that, again, has stayed with me. This was something I was already doing, but to know that another culture was already doing it added just another layer of I'm not quite so strange. There's humans have thought this before. So we also wanted to understand how plants were used as medicine and spiritual practices in daily life in Anishinaabe culture. So there's kind of seeing this for me also solidified that my personal idea about my spiritual path being deeply connected to what I do in my daily life, in my everyday life. What we do each day is sacred, and the actions that we take and the interactions that we have, the relationships we create and maintain, we have maybe with other people or other beings in this world around us, are a part of that spiritual work, a part of our spiritual path, and being that integrated. And it's not a separate, I do my spiritual thing and then I do my rest of my life. They're together. So that was, again, another lesson from taking classes and learning from the Native peoples that were teaching at that time. And I just appreciate being able to learn about the Anishinaabe culture and finding the points of similarity and kinship in these foundational ideas about how we live in the world. And this, of course, is one of many indigenous nations and cultures, but it was personally deeply connected for me. And this is especially important since the Anishinaabe peoples were on this land before my ancestors settled here and colonized. And this has helped me better understand the land in which I live in and the history with my ancestors and the actions taken upon the land and the people that were on the land that may have very well negatively affected the land and, of course, affected the peoples that were here already. So again, understanding that long history is a part of my spiritual path because it's part of what led to being here today. And kind of understanding the conflicts of our collective complex history between Indigenous peoples and peoples that have settled or colonized the land that we're on today. And these pieces are an important part of my spiritual path because it helps me understand the multiple layers and connections and interconnections of the past and the present actions in the world today, for better, for worse, and how we can move forward together in healthy and healed ways. So that is some of the things that I have learned with the Anishinaabe classes and people that I have worked with. Thank you.
We think of Vishnu, Maya, Kali, Ishtar, Athena, Isis, Great Mother of creation, womb of the universe. We think of Jupiter, Zeus, Apollo, Dionysius, Lord of creation, the quest for apples, God of ecstasy and wine, Horus, Aten-Ra, God of beginnings and endings, the soul, the Ka, soaring like a bird. Shiva, Shakti, yin and yang, the dance of life from hand to hand in perfect balance and movement of forces. Rama, Krishna, Varuna, Brahma, God of the Upanishads and Rig Veda, mystic priests, Shanti, the lotus, a holy vow. So many names for the holy divine. We think of that which has come before us for thousands and thousands of years, ancient thoughts and traditions. And when I was very young and grew up in the Christian tradition, I always wondered, why was it always listed in the masculine, and why wasn't the feminine or other forces talked about? And when I began to study Greek mythology, I thought, oh, this is so interesting. And I used to pretend like I was an ancient priestess, and I would go out in my robe and and hold court in my backyard. And then later on, I found out that there are people who celebrate Earth-centered traditions, and in many different ways, as Amanda said. And we don't want to conflate neo-pagan or Wiccan or goddess traditions with indigenous traditions. There's a lot of diversity, just like there is in many religions, for Earth-centered teachings. The arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. The arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. I invoke the protection, Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection, Divine Mother's grace. The arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. The arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. I heard this around many campfires and at pagan circles, and it became a blessing at our youngest and oldest bedtime. And Aaron, my youngest, when he was about 3, he surprised me by pointing to me after song, and he said, "That's you, Mommy." And the arms of the Great Mother. And I think that each of us has the divine within us, and that we are all a part of this great capital L life. And one of the powerful teachings of Earth-centered traditions is that of balance and renewal. As spring equinox started yesterday, I saw postings about seeds and excitement, and during the winter we tend to cycle down, and especially here in northern Wisconsin, I have become much more in tune with the natural cycles than when I lived in Florida and Georgia, where we didn't really have a lot of winter. And so I find great comfort in these cycles and seasons. They make sense to me. And I know that there is a lot to learn from the earth and from the patience of nature, and and also the chaos of nature. How do I find that balance? And for me, particularly as a woman and a mother, I find it very important to be included in the vision of the sacred. And so words like just Father God or God the Father are not inclusive of who I am or who many people are. And so it's been wonderful to see the Christian tradition and other traditions, try and really move with that. And in Earth Central traditions, there's a lot of, as you heard, all the names, there are many ways to go about that. Um, some of the most ancient divine images are of the fertile Earth Mother, some version of a pregnant or full-bodied mother image. When you think of the feminine, what comes up for you? Perhaps it is the destructive image of Kali, the destroyer, or perhaps it is Persephone, coming back from the underworld to bring spring. And when some people think of earth-centered spirituality, they think of nature worship. A nature deity can be in charge of nature, a place, a biome, a biosphere, the cosmos or universe. But there are many types of thoughts around this. It could be theism or panentheism. Panentheism means you find the sacred within everything. Pantheism is a great pantheon. Deism, polytheism, animism, totemism, shamanism, paganism, so many things. And so I hope that, as you consider your spiritual path, this month we have been looking at Buddhism and Christianity, and this week we're looking at Earth-centered traditions. Next week we're looking at Judaism. There is so much wisdom. If we think about how people have imagined the moon to be a goddess and the earth to be a goddess, or the sun god in the sky. And as our understanding continues, it doesn't mean that we have to shed our belief in things, but we can look at things in other ways. Science can inform our belief, right? And I think it's fascinating as we continue to evolve as people and things. This summer, Carl and I, and mainly Carl, put together a labyrinth in our front yard during COVID. And many of us turned to nature to heal our lonely and hurting souls during the pandemic. And for me, I did a native garden out front with the help of Pam Mayer and other people, and learned how to plant things. And this spring, I keep looking out at my labyrinth in the middle. I have a little crabapple tree, and I planted bulbs. And for me, that's resurrection. That is, seeing that life come again is the epitome of resurrection. And then there's Isis, rah, rah, rah. Yeah, I know that's bad, but she is the lady of heaven and earth and the netherworld, having brought them into existence through what her heart conceived and her hands created. This was a hymn to Isis in ancient Egypt. According to the book The Feminine Divine, the goddesses of Egypt were the tree of life, the date palm and the sycamore with its milky sap, and they were often shown as the tree, an offering from its leafy interior bases connected to the water of eternal life. Do you hear some of this language that you might have grown up with in other traditions? Nourishment of the souls passed from one dimension to the other. All of the ancient Egyptian pantheon was tied up in the cycles of life and death, and influenced by the agriculture in the Nile. And so these traditions came up for us as people tried to explain the world, and we continue to try and answer life's big questions. What happens when we die? How do we cope with grief? How do we celebrate our joy? And for some, they celebrate the spring equinox. Others celebrate Easter or Passover. And, there's a great diversity. Religion is religare, that which binds us together. Aren't we all tied into the nature cycles, the whims of season and drought? Truly, we are still animals, linked interdependently with nature, no matter how many iPads or computers or how we try to reach across Zoom, we are still animals with our instinct and a part of the world around us. Growing up in the Abrahamic faiths of Judaism and Christianity or Islam, a person doesn't normally associate God necessarily in feminine or in other dimensions. Yet in the mystical traditions of many religions, you will find that, like within Judaism, the Shekinah is the image of the divine feminine. The Shekinah image reveals God as mother, which has been obscured so long. And so I invite you to look for that which nourishes you. Even if you are someone who doesn't believe in the divine, these stories are powerful because they empower us to claim sanctity and that we are holy and connected and sacred in and of ourselves. So the arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. The arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. The arms of the Great Mother ever surround you. To reclaim your own sense of religion, whether it is finding the feminine divine, the masculine divine, or that which has no gender, or you're getting out in nature, enjoying the birds and connecting with your garden or on a walk. I hope that you will know that you are a part of something greater than yourself and that you can find healing from this tough pandemic in so many ways and in the wisdom that surrounds you in life. Blessed be. And now we turn to our time of giving. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we give to help people in need and to support the work of this congregation. The 50/50 Share the Plate recipient for March is the Round Table Revival. And we heard from Dawn and another person involved in that program that's doing so much good for people that are coming out of incarceration. You can donate online at uueauclair.com or even text to give at 84321. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you.
In the first rush
Please join me at home with extinguishing your chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And I have one last reading for you, again from the wonderful Dreaming History, a collection of Wisconsin Native American writing. And this particular poem is by Mary Ann Doan. Let Me Be a Light is the title. Let me be a light, not the faint flicker of the firefly, but a bold beacon like the morning star, shining high, illuminating the path ahead. Let me be a song, not the sharp staccato of the cricket's chirp, but a rapturous melody, like the meadowlark's merry voice, bringing joy to the world in each harmonious note. Let me be a prayer, not the sad lament of the mourning dove, but the strong, reverent petition of the eagle's beating wings, carrying each loving bequest skyward to the Creator. Let me be all these, that I might serve my purpose well upon this gentle planet, and be blessed in the blessing of all my brothers and sisters, touched by my light, my song, my prayer. So, for those of you who are watching from our Facebook live stream, hello. I'm so glad that you've joined us today. And if you would like to get more information about how to join services in Zoom, you can fill out the visitor link in the Facebook comments. So highly recommend doing that. Lots of fun. And those attending Zoom will take a brief moment to share joys and concerns, or share names that you might not have shared during the service while it was recorded. And then we'll move into our breakout rooms for different interests, and also invite participants to our safety and reopening discussion. Go in peace, go in love.